we have more news coming out of the United Kingdom. A new report by the think tank Autonomy Institute has raised serious questions about the link between political donations and public spending in the United Kingdom. The research reveals that companies donating to the ruling Labour Party were awarded contracts worth nearly $168 million in the party's first year in government. The study found more than 100 firms had donated money to political parties and later won government contracts, a pattern that continued from previous Conservative governments. Watchdog groups say the findings show a systemic conflict of interest that risks eroding public trust, calling for stricter rules and even a ban on political donors receiving public contracts. The report names major firms including Baringa Partners, Grant Thornton, PwC and Microsoft, companies that have contributed to both Labour and Conservative campaigns. Labour Party and the companies mentioned are yet to respond. Keith, how damaging is this report to the public trust in government, especially as it hangs by a thread right now?
Well, I wouldn't say, Thomas, it hangs by a thread. It's got a majority of 130. I think credibility probably is hanging by a thread. The government of Keir Starmer is not going to fall tomorrow. But it's damaging, as you say correctly, to the reputation of government as a whole. Because, of course, we've just come out of the COVID inquiry, where a number of companies were found to have been awarded millions of pounds worth of contracts for masks and for equipment that did not, masks that didn't fit, and equipment that didn't work and wasn't fit for purpose. That went along following the issues to do with procurement for that particular crisis. This is very disappointing. I would have thought that the Labour Party would have been much more careful in dealing with this matter, because Keir Starmer did say he wanted to do things differently. I don't think he knows about every single contract that's awarded, but I think probably where we should go is to a situation where any company that donates money should not receive a contract. I think the reporters are quite right. I think that's what the public would expect. What we will now have is a huge row in Westminster, one party accusing the other party, and the only parties that probably will be quite happy about all this are the Greens, the Reform Party, and the Liberal Democrats who've never been in government. And they'll say, well, we told you so. So I think this is important to read this report. I haven't read it, by the way, and to perhaps make those clear statements. Do not give contracts to anyone who has donated, and that will stop it immediately.
Yeah, and both major parties, of course, the Conservatives and Labour, they heavily rely on private donations. Is this simply the inevitable result of underfunding political parties through public means?
Well, I personally don't believe that there should be donations from companies, even though we think the American system is better because there's a very, very small donation list, and you can have these PACs that are formed by congressmen and senators. Actually, it's probably worse than the system we have here. These big companies will all want to woo governments because that's where the money is in the end, because the taxpayer is always there. The stock market may crash, but one person you can rely on is the taxpayer who forks out their hard-earned money to the government, and that money is used in this way. So from that point of view, I think it's very clear that we do need a new change of rules. We don't want to see anyone who has donated any money receiving any contracts. Access should not be given. Contracts should be awarded on the basis of merit and value for money. That's the only way. I know of many people who have written to government and said, here is a company, they can do this work for you cheaper. That's perfectly fine. But it must be a case where the government, civil servants, and an independent regulator checks this very carefully. And it's got to go that way, because there's no other way we're going to be satisfied.
Keith Vaz, brilliantly insightful as always. Thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you.
We now move on and over to Ireland, where Connolly, a veteran lawmaker on the far left of the Irish political spectrum, was elected president by a landslide margin on the 25th of October. This proved to be a stinging rebuke to the recently re-elected centre-right coalition. Connolly, a long-time critic of the European Union in strongly pro-EU Ireland and supported by the left-leaning opposition, was relatively unknown and widely underestimated at the outset of the race for the mostly ceremonial position. Connolly has reacted to the win. Let's listen in to what she had to say.
Be a president who listens and who reflects and who speaks when it's necessary, and a voice for peace, a voice that builds on our policy of neutrality, a voice that articulates the existential threat posed by climate change, and a voice that recognises the tremendous work being done, the length and breadth of the country, and we need to recognise that and ensure it is properly resourced.
Meanwhile, the Irish Taoiseach, Prime Minister Michael Martin, has congratulated Connolly. Let's listen in to what he had to say.
To President-elect Catherine on an outstanding honour that has been bestowed upon her by the people of Ireland. The people are sovereign in our democracy. We've one of the longest democracies in the world, and it's one that we cherish very much indeed. And the people have spoken resoundingly today, and they've given Catherine a tremendous majority and a very clear mandate in terms of her role as the next President of Ireland. And I look forward to working with the President-elect in the years ahead in terms of the challenges we all collectively face as a nation.
And that is a wrap on NewsX Eurozone. Keep watching NewsX World for more international news updates.